Let's shift focus then away from commodities with the budget right around the corner. Care Ratings has put out a report with their industry-wise expectations. Well, to take us through the report, we're now joined by Manisha, Sachdeva, Associate Economist at Care Ratings. Manisha, welcome to the show. And let me just start by, asking you the big unknown as far as the budget is concerned. We had the Bimal Jalan committee that was supposed to come out with their final recommendation and report before the union budget, but now that date has been pushed beyond the budget. The next meeting is in July. Definitely that, takes out a big variable as far as the budget math is concerned, Are you expecting, are you factoring in these extra reserves that could come in from the RBI? Do you think the government is?
We were expecting it to be, transferred to the government before the union budget, but in a phased manner. In fact, there is a 1.67 lakh crores of deficit in revenue in FY19, which we were thinking that will be filled with these transfers. But now the report that has been now shifted to, July 2019, there would not be any, as of now we feel there would not be any, provision made in FY20, because we need to see how these recommendations will fall in place in the month of July. But we were thinking that, they will receive around, 1 lakh crores from these reserves, which will help in fill the gap in these revenue collections.
All right. So that 1 to 1.2 lakh crore, the kind of surplus that we're hoping will be transferred. Perhaps, we'll have to wait for the budget announcement to understand whether or not that has been factored in. But let me get, the expectations that you have. In fact, the note that you put out, it does show that you're expecting much higher allocation, particularly for some of the Prime Minister's pet projects. Take us through, the key expectations here.
Basically, what we think is that we have to understand one thing, that the budget that is coming up on, July 15, 2019, comes against a backdrop of weaker economic domestic growth, muted private consumption, and lower revenue collections. So we at Care Ratings feel that the budget should be focusing on majorly on consumption and investment front. For that, we feel Make in India should be given a proper thrust. Because right now, if we see that manufacturing is only 15% of GDP for India. For China, it's 28% of the GDP. So in order to fill in that gap, to make, India self-sufficient in manufacturing, government needs to give a little push to Make in India in form of railways, in form of automobiles, so that, all our producers are self-sufficient and, we can achieve that percent of share in manufacturing.
All right. So in terms of, the where we're expecting the allocation to go, definitely infra is one of those. And that's sort of what the BJP manifesto also pointed towards. So, perhaps we can expect that to come through as well. But just a word on, the kind of minimum income support schemes that had been announced by the government. Are you expecting any sort of push in that kind of, social responsibility kind of direction?
They have already extended that scheme to all the farmers. Earlier, the allocation was around 70,000 crores. Now it has become 87,000 crores. It is definitely going to give a push to the rural economy in terms of higher demand for, say, entry-level motorcycles. But we do not really think that they are going to further extend this scheme, because they have already done their part. And we have to understand one major fact, that they are also, fiscally constrained, because they have to follow certain FRBM norms. So we really cannot expect them to, go for a higher fiscal deficit, because they themselves are constrained. And with now revenue collections also falling for FY19, they'll have to, manage their fiscal numbers accordingly. So I don't feel that there would be an extension to what they've already done.
All right. So what is the fiscal deficit number then that's being factored in?
Sorry?
What is the fiscal deficit number? Because, there was some expectations that perhaps this time around we might see some sort of leniency on that front. But like you pointed out, the government does need to stick in some regard to the FRBM roadmap. So what is the number being factored in?
For FY20, it's 3.4% of GDP. For FY19 also, they had budgeted for 3.4 and they had achieved 3.39% of GDP. So there would be some fiscal calculation that would be done, but I think they would be able to achieve their fiscal deficit target of 3.4%. There could be some deviation, but it would not be more than 0.1%, I feel.
All right. Should we be expecting anything major in terms of, corporate tax reduction? Of course, this has been a long-standing demand of the industry from the 30% number that we have at the moment. There were some comments made by the former finance minister with regard to bringing that down, and that's really got expectations running high. What should we expect on that front?
See, it's a long time demand from the corporates to reduce it to 25% from the current 30% for all the corporates, and I think this is the right time for the government to, to actually cater to this demand, because investment is not picking up. So in order to give boost to investment, ideally, I think this is the right time for the government to go ahead with this kind of a reduction in corporate tax.
All right, but should we be factoring in any other sort of changes in terms of tax slabs and things like that on the taxation front? Are you factoring in any big ticket announcements, or will the push largely be, like you pointed out, on the infra side of things?
I think it would be majorly on infra side. There won't be any tax reduction. There won't be any, advantage given to middle class group. We do not really feel it, because they've already announced some. There was a standard deduction which was given in the interim budget. So we do not feel that there would be any more announcement towards that. Having said that, being a consumer, I still feel that there should be some sort of reduction, which will definitely boost my demand. But I think the chances are bleak.
All right, let's talk about the kind of allocation that you're expecting in infra then, just to break that down, because there are several areas, that have been seeing delays, have been seeing extensions, largely on account of the election, of course. But where really are you expecting the push? Will it be railways? Will it be roads, which has been really the only green, the only area of hope as far as infra spending has been so far? Where do you expect the allocation to come through?
I think the allocation should increase in railways. We feel that it would be more in railways. As far as roads are concerned, the allocation is going to remain the same, because the government wants them to be self-sufficient, roads and airlines. So I don't think so. There won't be any reduction in the allocation, but it would remain same. As far as new investments are concerned, I feel it would be in railways and in irrigation, because we have seen that the agricultural sector has not been performing well. The growth was only 2.9%. The growth has been estimated only 2.9% for FY19, which is the slowest in the last 3 years. So I think, given the vagaries in the monsoons, I feel irrigation sector should be given some sort of thrust, and railways for sure. All right. Of course, the big concern, at this point of time, Manisha, as far as the economy goes, is the big consumption slowdown. The numbers that we've had coming out aren't really pointing towards any sort of recovery anytime soon. And this is the big question that many are hoping the finance minister will be able to deal with in the union budget announcement. As far as your outlook goes, what would be the most effective way for the FM to actually deal with this issue? For the consumption issue, you are saying? That's right. See, as I already mentioned, that the government is fiscally constrained, so we really cannot expect them to go for big bang reforms. And they've already made announcements for, to boost rural consumption. So as far as consumption is concerned, I really don't think so. If we are expecting some sort of increase in cash benefit transfer, I don't think so it's going to be extended. So I'm really not sure if that's going to happen at all. All right. But yes, as far as consumption is concerned, I think they can. Right. Sorry? No, go on. I'll let you complete your point. So basically, I was saying that demand in automobiles has also been affected because there was some NBFC crisis, because of which the credit offtake was not taking place, and obviously the demand was going down in Q3 FY19. So I think that is the area wherein I think the government can work, wherein they can reduce certain tax rates from, most of the categories in automobiles is carrying a 28% interest. So what they can do is they can reduce that interest to 18%. Which will obviously, improve the demand in that segment. Beyond that, I don't think so there would be any major reforms that, that can come up. All right, point taken. Just a final question on, the real estate side of things, because in the past, affordable housing has, been a large part of the kind of announcements that we've got coming in out of the government. What are you expecting on the realty front, on affordable housing in particular? See, they have to meet their targets by 2022. So in order for the projects to be in continuation, we feel that affordable housing definitely should be given a thrust. And I feel that government is definitely going to provide a major thrust to that sector. And we feel that an extra allocation of say around 20-30,000 crores will benefit the sector. Plus there is an interest subsidies which is given to all the affordable housing. I think that should also be extended in order to give boost to that sector. And there is a dire need for, to continue the allocation in that sector, I feel.
All right. Thanks so much. We'll leave it at that. Appreciate you joining in. It's a fairly extensive look at what we can expect from the union budget this time around. Like Manisha was pointing out, largely we're expecting, infra to be an area that the government keeps their focus. We're also expecting an extension of the PM Kisan Yojana as minimum income support to farmers. The budget amount of 75,000 crore, expecting that to be raised to about 87,000 crore. A few of the expectations that have come in from care ratings, and the allocation towards MG and Rega are likely to be maintained at about 60,000 crore as well. The fiscal deficit target, like Manisha was pointing out, clearly one of the crucial aspects of, the budget announcements that we will be getting, expecting it to be at about 3.4%, similar to the revised target for financial year 19 as well. Between 3.4 to 3.5% is the range that we are looking at. So nothing, too really lax as far as the fiscal deficit target is concerned. In terms of the tax slabs, that's really something that the middle class watches very closely. The revision in tax slabs or the tax rate will be something that we're watching very closely. And on the corporate tax front, this is something that the industry has been really hoping for quite some time. The demand to lower the corporate tax from where it stands currently at about 30% to 25% will be something else that's very crucial to watch. Also expecting an increase in allocation towards fertilizer subsidy and an increase in allocation towards nutrient-based subsidy as well. We may see higher loan allocation to sugar mills, but for the production of ethanol. This is already something that has come through in various policies announced by the government so far in financial year 19. Expecting that push to continue as far as ethanol production is concerned, and a revision in duty structure for palm oil imported from Malaysia. Just a few of the expectations coming in for various industries from care ratings. Let's put the spotlight